That's all I've got on this game. We'll move along to the Timberwolves Grizzlies, and I'll let you lead because I need 30 seconds to refresh.
This was the series that we were very excited for in terms of young, up and coming talent. Two teams we thought in similar spots in the development curve, but one with a lot more depth and probably some better coaching and just a really, really amazing season from the Memphis Grizzlies, right? They're winning a ton of games with and without John Morant. And they were looking to keep that rolling coming into the playoffs, even though they are relatively unproven still in this playoff format. So are the Timberwolves. But what we do know from the season is that this is a very favorable matchup for Minnesota. Anthony Edwards is maybe one of the only explosive guys in the league that can stay with Morant in that sort of matchup, right? And on the other end, I mean, I don't know if there's anyone in the league that can keep in front of Anthony Edwards. We already talked about that in the play-in game. Karl Anthony Towns, it's a really tough matchup for Steven Adams. And Jaren Jackson Jr., how awesome was he in this game? 7 blocks, I believe. But he gives up some size and some strength to Cat. And so it's a difficult matchup for Memphis to handle. And then you finish it up with D'Angelo Russell, who always seems to have a pretty solid performance against the Grizzlies. And so if you're Memphis there, it's a tough matchup, but you are the better team. And in front of their home crowd, they're unable to get it done. And Anthony Edwards is spectacular. He looks like he's not afraid. He must have played in some big football games in high school because he seemed well accustomed to the crowd and was eating it up and put on a spectacular performance once again. That's two kind of do or die games, playoff style games that we've now seen him in, and he's been up to the challenge for both of them.
Yeah, this by far my favorite game of all four we watched. The Jazz Mavericks, the all similarly tight down the stretch, but just tight. These guys can't make a shot versus tight. These guys can't miss a shot. I'll go with the latter most times. Yeah, the factors you talked about Edwards, where he just always takes that shot. Maybe the selection not where you want it to be. But he's still given that blank check, that license to take those shots because that confidence is so important. And clearly he's a player who thrives on it. A lot of tough deep threes off the dribble. I think he went 4 for 11 from them, which you'll take that.
Oh, absolutely.
Just one or two of them, honestly, that I was a bit like, yeah, about this selection, but the rest were all in rhythm, decent timing, huge for them. Towns, his first foul came late in the third quarter, maybe even the fourth. Really saw the discipline there, bouncing back and offensively, like you said. Adams, not a great matchup for him. Jaren Jackson, 7 blocks, but also 5 fouls. So the Timberwolves feasting off some holes there where Jackson had to step back. And then the depth scoring coming through for the rest. Beasley was great. Patrick Beverley's offense really impressed me. I think 10 points, 50% shooting, some nice playmaking as well, and just a lot of good, smart looks. I think with two teams who are relatively inexperienced at playoff basketball, him having a little less adjustment to do for the pace and intensity, just he was a little bit more of a fish in water where everyone else was trying to adjust and acclimate to their environment. And he just seemed to have a really smooth night whenever the ball was in his hands. Then D'Angelo Russell, the worst Timberwolf by far, the worst starter, but with that much offensive production coming from the rest of the team, that's okay. But the clutch factor still always there. He had a great deep contested three, like 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That wasn't a dagger, but kept the breathing room there and never let the Grizzlies get too close. I'm just talking about the offense for each teams because there was very little defense in this game and I was here for it. So that was the Timberwolves, and 130 points, that'll get it done most nights for you. They took care of the ball pretty well, except for a second quarter that saw 10 turnovers, but just 7 turnovers over the other 3 quarters. In the second half, that's where it matters a lot more, so they'll survive that. The Grizzlies, Ja Morant, just superstar level performance, 32 points. I swear half of those coming off dunks. It felt like, and then Desmond Bain, shoot, not Clark. This is the problem with watching
Brandon
four
Clark.
games. No, the other one. Names start to slip. Brooks.
Yeah, a Canadian kid.
Yeesh. The first name I forget all games. A Canadian. That's Anywho, they go toe to toe. Fell a bit behind in the first quarter, but caught up. Ja being on the floor, Ja being off the floor, as amazing as he was, it didn't really seem to make a difference for this team's offense, which is just a sign of this deep, connected team that we've been praising, especially in the second half of the season. But Ja did slow down in that fourth. I think he was just like 1 for 4 or something from the field, hit a couple of free throws, but just the whistles got a bit less loose as he went in on those explosions for contact. If the defenders kept their arms up, kept the body going, didn't slam into him, and managed to get mostly ball with the hands, the refs weren't calling it. Ja wasn't really able to adjust to that well, and the offense just slowed down a little. A bit of a couple sloppy offensive rebounds given to the Timberwolves down the clutch, and it goes their way. But of all the series that happened Saturday, this is the game that I have the least takeaways from about how the rest of the series is going to go, other than it's going to be fun. I think this is going to be a real back and forth, like clawing slugfest. And on this one, the Timberwolves just happened to come out on top.
Yeah, I think the overreaction here is that Minnesota could swing into the favored position in this series, but now that they've stolen home court advantage, but I think Memphis, again, still the better team, and in a 7-game series, that's going to win out, but I could see this one going deep.
Yeah, I think there'll be nights where Edwards isn't quite as hot. Towns gets into a little more trouble. A secondary guy for the Grizzlies, a Melton is bigger. A Clark gets more. Adams gets some offensive rebounds. The Timberwolves really held him off there, and that'll swing back and forth. But I haven't looked at Sunday's games yet, but this might be the best series of the first round.